Luka Doncic, man. How good has he been this season? Absurd. If not for the Mavericks being that poor defensively, he'd have the MVP on lock. But forget MVP, he's making the league look silly. Honestly, it looks like Luka's playing in a boys' league. It's as if Luka's playing against teenagers when he steps on the court. I can't think of a game that he didn't completely dominate this season. And the opposition should be very grateful that Mark Cuban doesn't have a working brain. Can you imagine what the Mavericks would look like with a bit of investment? With Doncic in this kind of form, who stops them? But forget about the what-ifs. We're here to talk about what Doncic is doing to the NBA. The man wakes up with the mission of destroying the opposition, and that's exactly what he ends up doing. Every single time. It's crazy to have that much consistency on a regular basis when you're dispatching off teams like you're playing against amateurs. The outright leader in scoring, Doncic is averaging 33.7 points per game. And no, this hasn't been inflated by a purple patch. This is what Doncic has done all season long. And how do you put a cap on someone who's peaking in their early 20s? This dude easily has more than a decade left to play in the NBA, and there are no evident weaknesses in his gameplay. Some believe that his defensive side of proceedings is somewhat sus, but I say shame on you. Do you not see the type of players he's playing with? Do you not see how poor this Mavs team is without Doncic? But that's the thing. Everyone has underestimated Doncic, probably even himself. Because let's be honest, the writing was on the wall. Luka Doncic was supposed to have an explosive season. Ask any analyst working with the NBA numbers before the start of this season. What did they think about Luka's upcoming campaign? They'll all tell you only one thing. He's going to have his best season yet. Now, that's easy to say when you take a look at Luka's progress in the last few years. But if you look at the advanced metrics, you get to learn that his overall impact was supposed to be around 11.4 box plus minutes. Now, if you don't understand what that means, it's fine. You don't need to. What you need to understand is that only 4 players in the last 20 years have done better than that number. LeBron James, obviously. Steph Curry, duh. Giannis Antetokounmpo, oh yes. And Nikola Jokic. Yes, all of them did win the MVP when they achieved that number. Luka was supposed to exceed that mark too, and to be honest, he's doing it a little too comfortably. Now, American sports put a lot of faith in numbers when they don't make sense. People get scared. There's no way Doncic will actually do that. I mean, he's great, and he'll have a phenomenal season, but that much impact? Are you sure? There must be a mistake, but there really isn't. The numbers speak for themselves in Luka's outrageous campaign. In late December of this season, Luka touched that peak. That staggering prediction came true. Luka was averaging over 42 points per game during the Mavs' 7-game winning streak. The ultimate point was that 60-point triple-double, a historic achievement, something that's never been done before. And even though in the last few games that impact has fallen a little bit, Doncic is still playing out of his skin. In fact, he's so good that there simply isn't a feasible working plan to stop him. Do you remember those late 2000s interviews from coaches about LeBron James? How they'd come out and say that, yeah, the Cavs aren't that good, but for the life of us, we have no idea how to stop that kid from Akron. Well, it's deja vu time. Darvin Ham was asked about Doncic, and he summed it up in 5 words. We don't have the answers.
Man, just raw talent, man, and skill at that size. I think he ushered in just a new wave of big guys who were able to function at a high level on the perimeter.
Monty Williams discussed the insanity that Luka is and said that he's the reason the Suns coaching staff has sleepless nights because of late-night film sessions.
He's at the break. He just had a really good rhythm. If you give him the same defense over and over again, he figures out a way to pick it apart. And they have guys.
Chauncey Billups of the Trailblazers believes that there isn't a tougher cover than Luka.
It's a matter of playing against Luka. He makes every single team in the league look like that. It just is what it is. This guy is so big, you double him, he sees over top of you.
And the fact is, none of them are wrong. Luka is so good that you're just supposed to let him do his thing. And somehow, he's only 23. Scarily enough, there's a chance that he could be getting even better. Doncic's defensive display against the Heat could be a sign of things to come. We've heard about players taking big steps within the same season, but improving your so-called weaknesses in the midst of a stellar campaign? That might be unheard of. After all, Luka is something of an anomaly. The latest released MVP ladder by the NBA placed Doncic fourth. It was almost disrespectful to do that after the kind of basketball Luka played all season. I'm not discounting the likes of Jason Tatum, Joel Embiid, and Nikola Jokic, but come on. You can't tell me that Doncic doesn't deserve to be in the top two, at the very minimum. In fact, they labeled his weak defense as the reason behind his most recent slip-up in the MVP race. Well, it seems like Doncic read the news because he was on it against the Miami Heat. Anyone who saw the game would tell you that it was yet another masterclass from the Slovenian superstar who was mind-blowing. The Heat, to their credit, tried everything. Doubling up, blitzing, play zone, switching. No matter what they did, number 77 had an answer to it. Effective on both ends, Luka ended the night with 34 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists, and a steal to his name. But that's the unbelievable point because now, Luka's domination of the NBA has become a norm. The 15 points that Doncic dropped against the Trailblazers in mid-January was a personal low, despite it being a double-double with 10 assists. For most players, that'd be a fantastic night out. But from Luka's standards, it was an off night. He even had 6 rebounds and a steal and block to go with it. It's just that the expectation from Doncic is way too high. In the 5 games prior to that one, Luka had been averaging over 34 points per game and over 11 rebounds per game. Not to mention over 8 assists as well. So that double-double was considered an off night for him. It's just the price you have to pay for being that good. But if Luka is serious about winning the MVP and putting together a solid playoff run, then the Mavericks front office needs to make some moves. They need to get Doncic some help. After all, this kind of form is rare. They got lucky when they got their hands on Doncic. But if they're truly smart, they'll get in a decent guard and a center to share the load. Yes, Luka is in fantastic form. But that's no reason to be playing as much as he has been playing this season. He's averaging 37.5 minutes per game, which is absurd. The Mavericks need to ensure they get Doncic all the help that he needs because if they play their cards right, this Dallas side could actually be a proper threat in the postseason. And beyond that, too. Luka is the kind of player you build the roster around, and he doesn't help you win a championship only. He'll help you build a dynasty and years of domination. But with the deadline fast approaching, there's not much time left for Mark Cuban and co. That's it from our side. See you again soon with more exciting content.